They say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. But what if you became the person whose absence echoed so deeply that they never fully recovered from losing you? What if you carried yourself in such a way, grounded, self-contained, magnetic, that the memory of you stayed lodged in the minds of those who walked away, leaving them to realize the depth of their loss far too late? Welcome to the Everlasting Stoic. This is not just a channel, it's a forge. A place where we reshape ourselves with fire and philosophy. Where pain becomes fuel and self-mastery is the goal. If you're tired of chasing, explaining, proving, waiting, you're in the right place. Here, we don't beg for attention. We become the standard. We don't cling to what we've lost. We rise so high that those who left us are forced to look up. In today's video, we're diving deep. Over the next hour, you'll be taken through a complete transformation of mindset. One that will harden your resolve and refine your character. You'll stop seeing loss as defeat, and instead begin to craft the version of you they'll wish they never let go. Before we begin, I want you to do something for yourself. Subscribe to this channel and hit that like button if you're committed to becoming unshakable. Because what you're about to hear might just change the way you approach relationships and yourself forever. Now, let's begin. 1. Approval is not your currency. The moment you start living for their approval, you hand over the keys to your peace. And the moment they feel that power, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the grounded, magnetic version of yourself. They've become your mirror, your measure, your judge. This is the trap most people fall into. But here's the truth you must internalize. Approval is not your currency. It's not what makes you valuable. What makes you valuable is your integrity, your discipline, your sense of purpose. The Stoics taught that value comes from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Imagine the irony. Loving yourself yet allowing someone else's fleeting opinion to determine your worth. It's a sickness of the modern heart, and it's time to extract the poison. The person who regrets losing you is not the one you desperately tried to impress. It's the one who felt the shift when you no longer cared to. Approval seeking is noisy. It reeks of desperation, and desperation repels confidence. On the other hand, real confidence is quiet. It doesn't try, it just is. When you no longer dance for their applause, they start watching differently. They wonder what you found that made their approval irrelevant. You want to become unforgettable. Stop checking if you're enough for them. Start asking if they're enough for the life you're building. And if they're not, walk away. Not out of bitterness, but because you don't negotiate your value. Not anymore. Here's a hard truth. Most people are performing. They change their tone, their behavior, their boundaries just to maintain a connection. They shrink, they adapt, and in doing so, they dissolve. Slowly, invisibly. But the Stoic path is not about dissolution. It's about definition. You are not water, shapeless and compliant. You are a mountain, unmoving. And when someone walks away from a mountain, the mountain does not follow. Let them go. Let them think you're cold. Let them say you've changed. Because in reality, you've remembered who you are. And that version of you, the one not performing, is the one they'll miss when the masks fall off. When the attention fades and when they realize you were the only one who never needed their validation to begin with. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. The person who tries to make you earn their love is playing God in a temple they built out of ego. Walk out of it. Worship nothing but truth, reason, and the self you're still building. Now, I want you to pause and reflect. Have you ever betrayed your own standards for someone else's approval? If so, let this be the moment that ends. In the comments, write this if you're ready to take back your power. Their approval is no longer my fuel. Let it be your declaration, a public vow to never lose yourself again. 2. Be the one they can't reach. Closeness is not always connection, and accessibility is not always affection. The truth is, people value what is distant, rare, and refined, not what is always available. If you are constantly within reach, emotionally and physically, you become the furniture in their life, useful, predictable, taken for granted. To become the person they regret losing, you must master the art of emotional distance. This is not about cruelty or manipulation. It's about presence with boundaries, warmth without attachment, availability on your own terms. You stop responding to every message instantly. You stop over-explaining, over-texting, over-giving. You stop making them the center of your gravity. The Stoics practiced something called apatheia, freedom from disturbance. This does not mean becoming indifferent. It means not being enslaved by the emotional storms of others. You feel, you care, but you don't orbit around their whims. And in doing so, you create a space, a void, an absence they notice. And that absence begins to whisper. They wonder why you're not as reachable. They question why your mood doesn't hinge on theirs anymore. They sense a shift, but they can't name it. That mystery becomes a mirror, and in that mirror they see what they never appreciated, what they never truly understood until it was gone. To be the one they can't reach doesn't mean you vanish. It means you rise. It means you become so immersed in your craft, your discipline, your evolution, that they have to climb to find you. And many won't. They'll give up. But the few who do, if they return, will come back with a different tone, one of reverence, not entitlement. Now ask yourself, have you been too available? Too emotionally open to people who didn't earn it? Too generous with your time, your energy, your soul? Then it's time to shift. Instead of texting back instantly, build a better morning routine. Instead of stalking their social media, invest in your fitness, your craft, your mind. Instead of wondering if they miss you, make yourself unforgettable by disappearing into your own greatness. Because nothing haunts a person more than someone who once made them feel seen, and now walks past them like a ghost wrapped in purpose. This chapter is a turning point. If you feel it resonated, if you are ready to be the one who they reach for next time but can no longer grasp, then in the comments I want you to write, I will be remembered by my absence, not out of pettiness, but out of power. It's time they learn access to you was a privilege, not a guarantee. 3. Radiate positivity without expectation. There is a kind of light that doesn't blind but warms, a presence that doesn't demand but uplifts. That presence is rare. In a world addicted to reactions, conditions, and transactional warmth, to radiate positivity without any expectation in return is not only radical, it's stoic. But let's be clear. Positivity without expectation is not weakness. It is strength restrained by wisdom. Most people smile because they want something. They offer kindness because they're fishing for approval. They give compliments as a currency, and in doing so, they tether their emotional state to the reactions of others. You praise them, they rise. You ignore them, they collapse. This is the tragedy of conditional expression. The Stoic doesn't radiate to be admired. He radiates because his light is self-sustaining. He gives, not because he's trying to secure a return, but because it aligns with who he's chosen to become. Kindness becomes character. Calm becomes default. Positivity becomes power. This is how you become unforgettable, by being the rare individual whose presence brings calm, whose energy lifts without clinging, and whose positivity is anchored in inner abundance. You're not chasing good energy from others. You're exuding it. You're the source, not the seeker. Here's the paradox. The more you try to impress, the less people are impressed. The more you try to be noticed, the more invisible you become. But when you start showing up in every room with quiet strength and unshakable peace, something shifts. People lean in. They don't know why they're drawn to you, but they are. You must become this type of presence. Imagine you walk into a room and you radiate serenity, not loud joy, not forced charm, but the quiet kind of energy that settles people's nerves. You're not trying to fix anyone. You're not begging to be seen. You are simply rooted, centered, calm. That kind of presence lingers. And long after you're gone, people will remember how they felt in your presence. Not what you said, not how attractive you looked, but how safe, alive, or focused they became around you. That is true impact. That is the echo of someone who has mastered his internal weather. The challenge, of course, is sustaining this in a world that thrives on expectation. You hold a door open. No one says thank you. You speak kindness. They meet it with sarcasm. You radiate peace. Someone tries to disturb it. The Stoic's task is to remain unmoved, to give the warmth because it honors your nature, not because it's appreciated. And if it is appreciated, fine. If not, also fine. You are not a negotiator of vibes. You are a lighthouse. Your energy is not dimmed because a ship fails to see it. You shine because you were built to shine. So here's what I ask of you. Become aware of where you give with expectation, where your smile is bait, where your positivity is a form of manipulation. Then start detoxing it. Give compliments you expect no return on. Send messages with no need for reply. Be warmth that doesn't beg to be felt. And in doing so, you will confuse the manipulative and attract the wholehearted. And now, I want you to reflect on this. What would change in your life if your positivity became independent of response? If your energy was no longer held hostage by how others react? If you're committing to that shift, if you're ready to radiate without needing, write this in the comments. I shine because it's who I am, not what they deserve. Let the world feel your energy, but never let it drain you. 4. Elevate your standards. There's a moment when you realize that most of what you've accepted in life was never about what you deserved. It was about what you tolerated. That moment hurts. It stings to look back at the relationships you settled for, the behaviors you allowed, the apologies you never received, and realize it wasn't them. It was you. You taught them how to treat you by what you tolerate. Standards are not about arrogance. They're about clarity. When you know what aligns with your values, your direction, your emotional peace, you stop negotiating with chaos. You stop romanticizing red flags. You stop trying to polish what was never meant to shine. Stoicism is rooted in self-respect. It's not reactive. It's intentional. A Stoic doesn't elevate his standards because he's better than others. He elevates them because he knows the cost of allowing mediocrity to linger in the sacred spaces of his life. Ask yourself, who gets access to your mind? Your body? Your time? Have you made these sacred things open to people who only show up halfway? People who text when they're bored, love when it's easy, and disappear when it gets real. The person they regret losing is the one who made them rise to meet a standard. Not out of punishment, but because that was the only way they'd be allowed into your world. People remember boundaries. They remember the ones who didn't bend, the ones who didn't tolerate breadcrumbs, the ones who walked away when the price of staying was their peace. But to raise your standards, you have to confront your loneliness. That's the painful part. High standards often lead to silence, to empty rooms, to fewer texts. And in those moments, your ego will scream, lower the bar, let someone in. Attention is better than solitude, and this is the battlefield. This is where most people fall. But you must hold. Because the space that's empty now will one day be filled with only those who were built to walk beside you, not beneath your standards, but shoulder to shoulder with your values. Elevate your standards not just in romance, but in friendships, in environments, in the way you talk to yourself. You want to change your life. Raise the minimum you accept, the minimum you give yourself, the minimum you tolerate in every conversation, every connection, every compromise. This world is not short on options. It is short on people with clarity of self. And once you become one of them, you stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop waiting, you build, you invite, and you filter relentlessly. You don't argue for your worth. You embody it. So I ask you now, what have you been tolerating that is beneath your standard? What have you allowed that you knew, deep down, chipped away at your peace? If you're ready to raise your standard, even if it means walking alone for a while, then say this out loud or write it in the comments. I will not shrink to be loved. I will rise, and let them meet me there. Let that be your shield, your filter, your 5. Stand tall in your confidence. Confidence is not a look. It's not the smirk, the walk, the posture. Those are just the shadows it casts. Real confidence is silent. It does not perform. It simply knows. And that knowing radiates in everything you do, even in your stillness. Most people confuse confidence with arrogance, but arrogance is loud and brittle. It demands to be seen because it's terrified of being exposed. True confidence, on the other hand, is self-contained. It neither begs nor boasts. It is the quiet conviction that you are enough, even in a room full of distractions, temptations, and judgments. The Stoic cultivates this kind of confidence, not from praise, but from preparation, from self-discipline, from internal victories. It's what you build in the dark that allows you to shine in the light. You train your mind through reflection. You train your body through motion. You train your spirit through solitude. That is the gym of the soul. Confidence does not mean you always feel strong. It means you know how to stand tall, even when you feel weak, especially when you feel weak. That is the essence of Stoic composure, remaining grounded when the storm hits, remaining unmoved when chaos knocks, remaining kind when bitterness would be easier. To be the person they regret losing, you must walk like someone who doesn't seek validation, but radiates value. You don't chase. You don't prove. You don't explain endlessly. You move with intention. And that intention draws others in. Confidence is in the pauses. In the moments you say less and mean more. It's in your boundaries, your eye contact, your ability to say no without flinching. It's in how you recover after failure, how you apologize without groveling, how you hold the line when pressure mounts. And yes, confidence is attractive, but more importantly, it's protective. It shields you from manipulation. It deters those who feed off insecurity. It becomes a force field that filters who enters your life and how they treat you once they do. But this kind of confidence is earned. It is the reward for choosing self-respect over temporary pleasure, for choosing growth over comfort, for choosing discipline over impulse. So let me ask you, have you been outsourcing your confidence, looking for it in their compliments, their presence, their text, their touch? If so, it's time to reclaim it. And if you're ready, I want you to do something bold. In the comments, declare this: my confidence is mine. I built it. I protect it. Say it, mean it, live it. Let your silence speak. Let your composure roll. 6. Embrace the mystery. There was a time when mystery was power, when what was unknown held weight, when silence wasn't awkward. It was respected. Now, in an age of overexposure, oversharing, and instant access, mystery is rare, and because of that, it is invaluable. The person they regret losing is often the one they never fully figured out, the one who left questions unanswered, who didn't feel the need to explain their every emotion, who moved with purpose, not permission. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's restraint. And restraint is one of the highest forms of strength. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus wrote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But in today's world, everyone is speaking constantly, texting back immediately, sharing thoughts unfiltered, broadcasting their every mood. They've made themselves easy to read, easy to lose. You want to become unforgettable? You want to become the echo in someone's memory? Then learn to embrace the mystery. Let them wonder where you are. Let them question what you're thinking. Let them sit in the silence after you've chosen not to overshare. When they say, "Tell me everything," you don't give them everything. You give them presence. You give them but you do not give them all of you until you've seen if they're capable of holding it. Mystery doesn't mean being evasive or deceptive. It means you're intentional with what you reveal. It means you understand that intimacy is earned. Not everyone is owed your inner world. And when you hold that line, when you don't crack open your chest for every charming smile or fleeting affection, they feel it. They know they're in the presence of someone who doesn't bleed for just anyone. The most magnetic people are the ones who carry a depth they don't broadcast. You sense it in their silence. You see it in the way they observe before they speak. You feel it in the way they leave a conversation, not with the desperation of needing to be remembered, but with the quiet assurance that they will be. So many relationships die from overexposure, from the loss of polarity, from revealing too much, too soon. But when you hold back, not from fear, but from principle, you keep the tension alive. The fire doesn't die because there's always more to discover, always more to earn. You must stop giving people your entire story before they've proven they're worthy of the next page. The story of you is sacred. It is earned through patience, presence, and effort. Don't reward surface-level interest with deep-level access. Remember, the sun doesn't explain itself. It just rises. And now, here's something I want you to sit with. Where in your life have you confused vulnerability with full exposure? Where have you handed over your mystery too easily, hoping to be loved for your openness, only to be discarded for your availability? If you're ready to protect your depth, if you're committing to embrace the mystery again, write this in the comments. Let them wonder. I'm not here to be solved. Let that be your posture. You are not a riddle to be rushed. You are a presence to be earned. 7. Purpose before romance. Here is the law. The man or woman who orients their life around love will lose both love and themselves. But the one who builds their life around purpose, around craft, contribution, conviction, will become a gravitational force. Purpose is the root, romance is the fruit. Get the order wrong, and everything withers. Most people flip the equation. They fall in love first, then try to squeeze purpose around the edges. They meet someone who lights them up, and suddenly the gym matters less. The vision board collects dust. The passion project becomes a maybe someday. But here's the truth. When you abandon your purpose for love, you don't keep the love, you just become harder to love. Because what made you attractive in the first place was your direction, your ambition, your glow. And when you trade all that for proximity, you lose the very thing that made them want to be near you in the first place. The Stoics held purpose as sacred, not as ego, but as duty. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations between dates and distractions. He wrote it as a king who knew that to serve the world, one must first rule the self, and that kind of sovereignty only comes from mission purpose before pleasure. Here's what they won't tell you. When you chase romance, it runs. When you chase purpose, the right romance catches up. You want them to regret losing you, then disappear into your discipline. Become so immersed in your growth that the memory of you isn't just the one who cared, but the one who became. Not the one who begged to stay, but the one who outgrew the need for approval. Romance is beautiful, but it cannot complete you. It cannot replace the satisfaction of achieving what you promised yourself. It cannot substitute for the sacred silence that comes after a long day of effort in the direction of your values. When you put purpose first, you also filter differently. You don't chase chaos. You don't fall for potential. You observe. You measure. You ask, will this connection amplify my mission or distract me from it? And that clarity is magnetic. Because deep down, we're all drawn to those who live for something more than just attention or affection. But don't misunderstand. Stoicism doesn't demand celibacy or coldness. It calls for balance. For the hierarchy of values to be clear, you love deeply, but you never abandon your path. And when you love from a place of wholeness, not need, you love better. So if you're finding yourself distracted, pulled away from your purpose, consumed by thoughts of who isn't texting, calling, validating you, stop. Ask yourself, what did I put down that once made me feel alive? Pick it up again and watch how your energy shifts, how the world responds differently, how they look at you, no longer as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone becoming something too powerful to ignore. If this chapter called you out or called you up, then share this in the comments. Purpose before pleasure. Mission before emotion. Because the person they regret losing is the one who never lost sight of their path. 8. Build a life that attracts. There's a reason some people can walk away from a relationship and never feel truly replaced. It's not because they were perfect. It's because their life was so full, so vivid, so them, that to lose them meant losing an entire world. You want to be the person they regret losing? Then you must build a life that attracts. Not from need, not to impress, but from alignment with your highest self. You see, most people build their lives reactively. They respond to jobs, to partners, to drama, to trends. Their environment molds them. Their calendar is dictated by others. Their values shift depending on who they're around. This is the life of the unanchored, the easily replaced, the forgettable. But the Stoic builds intentionally. Every aspect of their life becomes an extension of their values. Their home reflects their order. Their body reflects their discipline. Their conversations reflect their clarity. Their habits reflect their priorities. That kind of life becomes magnetic, not because it seeks attention, but because it radiates coherence. And coherence is rare. In a fragmented world, someone who lives in alignment becomes unforgettable. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if no one else was watching? If there was no applause, no praise, would you still train your body? Still journal your thoughts? Still wake up with fire? Because that is how you build a life that attracts you. Make it so good that love is a bonus, not a requirement. You start designing your mornings like rituals. You create space in your environment for thought creation, recovery. You dress not for validation, but because your appearance is a reflection of self-respect. You curate your circle, not with people who entertain you, but with people who challenge you, expand you, remind you of your mission. And here's what happens. When someone walks into that life, they feel it. They feel the momentum, the focus, the serenity. It's not loud. It's just undeniable. They realize they're not the center of your world, but that joining your world is a privilege. And if they leave, they don't just lose you. They lose access to that energy, that ecosystem, that frequency. Let me be clear. This isn't about flexing. It's about foundations. You build a life that is so aligned, so rooted, so rich in character, that even solitude becomes satisfying. And from that wholeness, you relate differently. You don't chase validation. You attract resonance. You don't fear rejection. You discern who fits. You don't beg for love. You share it from overflow. That kind of life is the one people remember. The kind they compare new relationships to. The kind that stays with them, quietly reminding them of what it felt like to be near someone who didn't just have potential, but pus. So I'll ask you, is your life currently being built by default or by design? Are you chasing love to escape your life? Or building a life so fulfilling that love is drawn to you like gravity? If you're ready to commit to becoming that kind of presence, then in the comments, affirm this: I'm building a life that speaks for me. Let your path become the proof. Let your alignment be the attraction. 9. Humor is a sign of security. The loudest room is not always the most confident, nor is the most serious one the wisest. True self-mastery reveals itself not just in silence or stoicism, but often in laughter. Yes, even laughter. The ability to joke, to laugh at oneself, to play with the absurdity of life, without losing strength, without abandoning principles. That is the mark of someone deeply secure. You want to become the person they regret losing. Be someone whose presence carried lightness. Someone who could hold both gravity and levity in the same breath. Stoicism isn't about stone-faced detachment. It's about emotional clarity. It's about filtering what matters from what doesn't. And when you realize how little of this world deserves to disturb your peace, you begin to smile, not because you've given up, but because you've finally stopped taking things so damn seriously. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." A powerful line, and one that explains why most people walk around with a weight they created in their own mind. But those who've done the inner work, who've faced their demons, who've stood in front of the mirror and made peace with their flaws, find the sacred luxury of not being so easily offended. They joke about their scars, not because they've forgotten the pain, but because they're no longer ruled by it. Humor is evidence that you're not constantly managing perception. It means you're not walking on eggshells in your own skin. You're not trying to be admired, you're allowing yourself to be seen. That authenticity, that freedom, it's magnetic. Most people walk around stiff, filtered, and performative. You smile easily, laugh deeply, not as a mask, but as a reflection of real, earned inner peace. When you can make others laugh without losing depth, when you can be light without being shallow, you create contrast. People feel safe around you because you're grounded, but not rigid, powerful but not oppressive, wise but not condescending. Let's be honest, the people we remember the most are often those who could make us laugh and think, who made us feel lighter by their presence, but never less serious about life. If your presence feels like oxygen, like relief, you become unforgettable. But this kind of humor requires work. You must first remove the armor of ego, the insecurity that makes you take everything personally, the need to control every impression. When that dissolves, your humor becomes an act of generosity. You're not laughing to get approval. You're laughing because your soul is light. If this is a shift you want to make, if you want to walk into rooms and bring both strength and levity, then let this be your affirmation today. I take life seriously, but not personally. Drop it in the comments. Carry it into every conversation. Let them feel your freedom. 10. When it's time, walk away. There's a particular strength that only appears in endings. The strength to walk away, not out of anger, not out of drama, but from a grounded recognition that this no longer serves who I am becoming. That kind of walk-away power is rare. Most people stay too long, not because they love too deeply, but because they fear the silence that follows detachment. You want to be the person they regret losing? Then master the art of walking away with dignity, clarity, and composure. Not slamming the door, not writing long emotional paragraphs, not begging for closure, just standing up, gently and walking toward a life that demands more of you and gives more back. The Stoic doesn't run from pain, but he also doesn't worship it. He knows when pain is the teacher and when it's become a leash. You are not required to suffer endlessly to prove your worth. You are not bound to be someone's emotional crutch, nor are you obligated to shrink just to keep a bond intact. People remember those who left with quiet power, the ones who didn't make a scene but made an absence so profound it echoed. You don't need to convince them. Your silence will say more than your explanations ever could. And here's the truth. Walking away isn't always from someone toxic. Sometimes it's someone good, but not aligned. Sometimes it's a job, a city, a pattern. The Stoic is ruled by alignment, not emotion. When something threatens your values, your peace, your purpose, you don't wait until it poisons you. You move. This takes preparation. Detachment is a skill. It means training yourself to recognize when you've given your all, when the lesson is learned, when the chapter has ended. Even if your heart still wants one more page, you mourn, yes, but you don't stagnate. Walking away is a message not just to them, but to yourself. It says, I will not betray my future for temporary comfort. It says, I value peace over company, growth over familiarity. Let that message be written in every step you take away from what no longer fuels your fire. And if they ever look back, let them see your back standing taller, walking freer, glowing brighter. Now, if you're on the edge of such a decision, or if you've recently made one, I want you to claim your strength. In the comments, say this: my silence is my goodbye, because not every goodbye needs a speech. Sometimes the departure is the closure. 11. Know when to let go. There is a quiet war between two parts of you. The part that holds on out of memory, and the part that wants to let go in the name of becoming. Letting go is not forgetting. It's not betrayal of love. It's the release of illusion. It's accepting that what once fit no longer does, and that clinging to it is slowly suffocating your evolution. Stoicism teaches us to master desire, not by killing emotion, but by discerning reality. To see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Most people are in love with a version of the past that never truly existed, or with a fantasy of what could have been. This attachment becomes a prison, a loop, and they wonder why they can't move forward. But the person they regret losing is the one who let go when it mattered. Not bitterly, not to make a point, but because they realized the path ahead was narrow and couldn't be walked with both hands clinging backward. To let go is to trust. To believe that your next chapter holds something higher, deeper, truer. But only if you stop dragging dead weight through the gates of your destiny. This is not easy. Grief is part of it. So is fear. But the reward is clarity. Energy, space. You will never receive what you deserve while entertaining what you've outgrown. Think of the times you've held on too long. The patterns you repeated. The people you kept trying to save. The moments you knew it was over, but stayed anyway. Those are not failures. They're lessons. Let them hurt, then let them go. Letting go also means releasing who you were. That version of you that tolerated disrespect, that neglected self, that reactive one. Say goodbye to them too. Because for someone to regret losing you, they must first see that you've changed and that you're never going back to being who they once knew. Let go of the idea that you need closure. You don't. The closure is your peace. Let go of the idea that you must be understood. You don't. The understanding is yours alone. If this resonates with your journey, if you've come to the quiet point of release, declare this in the comments. I let go with grace, and I rise in silence. That's the true turning point. That's the rebirth. Conclusion. If you've made it this far, something in you is shifting. Something ancient, disciplined, and resilient is waking up. You are not here for temporary validation. You are not here to be chosen, explained, or fixed. You are here to build, to elevate, to become the kind of soul that is not easily replaced, not easily forgotten, and never easily broken. Throughout this journey, you've learned to stop seeking approval, to disappear into purpose, to raise your standards, to protect your peace, and to walk away from what no longer aligns. You've seen that your greatest strength is not in holding tighter, but in letting go cleaner. You've been reminded that the most magnetic life is not the one begging for love, but the one so full of integrity that love must rise to meet it. You are now walking a different path, a path of inner wealth, stoic strength, quiet power, and whether you're alone or surrounded, whether they come back or never do, you've become someone greater. Someone who doesn't just move on, but moves up. If this message resonated deeply, subscribe to The Everlasting Stoic. This channel exists to guide those like you, seekers of peace, builders of self, protectors of dignity. Like this video, and more importantly, share it with someone who needs it. And in the comments, let this be your final affirmation today. I am becoming the person they regret ever losing, not out of spite, but out of honor. Your journey is sacred. Keep walking.